Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to give you guys some new ideas and some new strategy for Alliance Tournament. I want to give you guys my Alliance Tournament attack because I haven't yet done it, so we're going to do it in this video at some point. And additionally, I wanted to give you tips if you should find yourself in Alliance tournaments as a new Alliance in the future, because as we know, the Alliance battle standings have been shaken up recently, and I can see some definite new faces that I haven't seen before. You know, Weapon X hasn't been here in a long time, Marine Ford, our Alliance, for example. Then you have other ones like Dynasty Latam and Marvel Future Fight Elite. And so if you find yourself in one of the these alliances, and you don't know precisely how you should prepare and how you should approach Alliance Tournament, hopefully I'll be able to help you out with some of these tips as an intermediate or veteran player, but also for the newbies. This is a really great opportunity for you to try and get a better understanding of the meta and why certain characters are valued or undervalued for the meta and the end game kind of PvP content that we have. Although it's very small, there is something to it, and how this kind of chess match of Alliance Tournament can be better understood and broken down into a more manageable setup. So first I want to discuss the team that I selected for Alliance Tournament. I went with this one right here: Apocalypse, Jean Grey, and Quicksilver. Jean Grey and Quicksilver are basically auto includes for every single team. I have yet to see a team that doesn't include them, although there are some cheeky teams that might switch Quicksilver out for his sister. I think it's a bit risky. So with Jean Grey and Quicksilver assumed as your 1 and 2, you essentially have the third slot to play with for creativity. Scarlet Witch seems to be the best or the most frequent choice for the high-end alliances, and I think it has something to do with her skills. Her first two skills, Obsession and Dimension Lift, are both iframes, and it's important because if she leads with either of these skills, she won't be taking damage from Quicksilver or Jean Grey, and that's really important. Additionally, she has all these effects that do things like heal her, immune damage, reflect, do extra damage to Jean Grey or whatever. That's besides the point. But it's important to note that if she leads with one of these two skills, she'll be very safe, whereas if another character like Spider-Man leads with his first skill or his second skill, it's not going to be as good, even Wolverine for that matter. Additionally, a lot of people are starting to go with Apocalypse. Apocalypse does have an iframe on his first skill. His second skill is not as good, but it does have, or it appears to have, a guard break or a hit stun capability, which is nice. Apocalypse is just super tanky, which is why he's being chosen, and he's kind of the best meat shield available. I think he might be better than Wolverine as a meat shield, but I still have more testing to do. Wolverine would be a great option here, but he's banned this week. And then I think the final two options that I'm seeing a lot of are Spider-Man 2099 and Spider-Man, and essentially that is just for the webbing, for the crowd control, and some of the kind of mechanics for Spider-Man 2099 where he can get hit and not take any damage because of his tier 2 passive, and how that can help him against Quicksilver. But this is the setup that I went with. Keep in mind that my Apocalypse is not fully geared, so the attack that I'm going to do in the video will probably be a failure. I didn't switch out his ISO 8 set for Drastic Density, and I didn't even give him ISOs, so he's got an offensive set, which might be good, I'm not sure, but he at least has an Obelisk. But still, without Uru, I'm very doubtful that he'll do very much. I've been attacked already by someone, and I'll show you guys that in a minute. It didn't go too well, spoiler alert. But before I do that, I wanted to discuss for you guys some of the strategy that's going into how my alliance approaches this. So aside from what we just discussed, which are the best characters to choose for Alliance Tournament, which is an important part, you want to make sure that as many of your alliance members have those characters available and you construct those teams. The only character that I left out from that list would be Destroyer. Destroyer also is making his presence felt on some of our teams, but I feel as though his value is waning a little bit in Alliance Tournament because, for example, he does counter Jean Grey semi-effectively, and he does counter Scarlet Witch, you'd think, with her energy damage. But the fact of the matter is Scarlet Witch has so many iframes on 1, 2, and 5 that it makes it very difficult for Destroyer to actually deal enough damage to kill her. I do have a clip, if you watch one of the replays from my alliance, of one of my alliance members taking out a Scarlet Witch, Jean Grey, Quicksilver team with their Destroyer team, but I feel as though that's the exception rather than the rule, and I think more than 5 times out of 10 Destroyer is going to lose that fight. So I'm not seeing as much of his value anymore. Additionally, I'm not seeing as much value from Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2099 as I thought. I really like Spider-Man 2099, but I feel as though his value lowers and it drops a lot in a 3v3 scenario. I think he's excellent in 1v1, and he might be the best auto timeline character in the game. That's auto timeline, by the way. But in a 3v3 scenario, I'm a bit questioning, I question a little bit his value. But as far as the preparations after you've selected your teams, you essentially need to scout the other team. And there's many ways that you can do that, but probably the easiest and most helpful way that you can scout the other team after you find them in the top 16 is to look up their obelisks. And the obelisks will take you some time to look up for their set characters, but once you have the tournament active for you, and again, this is only for the top 16 teams, so I'm going to try to be brief here. I don't want to bore the people who aren't in the tournament. You go to select your attack, you go and you see, and then you see who they've set up. So essentially what I would do here is I would note down the character's or the player's name, 30cm Lil Guy or Lil G, and then I would note that he's using Jean Grey, Quicksilver, and Scarlet Witch. Then I could go here, or I could go back to the Alliance battle and I can look him up. And then once I've looked him up, I can figure out what his obelisks are for those 3 characters. Now you might be wondering, well, Cynicalex, what does it matter if I can go and look at their obelisks? Well, it matters because there are certain effects on their obelisks that are going to make a very big impact on the fight against other characters. So for example, while we know that Quicksilver already has ignore dodge, this Quicksilver for this particular enemy on the opponent, in this case Dream, has an obelisk that gives him an additional 30% ignore dodge. So this Quicksilver has 80% ignore dodge, which is extremely dangerous against an enemy Spider-Man or Spider-Man 2099 who have both guaranteed dodge. So if I had a team of Quicksilver, Jean Grey, and Spider-Man, I would be worse off fighting this Quicksilver than another Quicksilver with 30% less ignore dodge. So it's those kinds of small factors that are going to make the difference between potentially winning and losing. And while it may seem inconsequential to you, finding these small advantages will build up into a much larger advantage. There's much more you can do in terms of stat breakdowns in order to compare your alliance's roster to your enemy's roster. It's again, you're only comparing 3 versus 3, but that's still a lot of comparisons to make. But I just wanted to give you a small example of something that you can do to give yourself some edge and to kind of give your alliance organization in this tournament attack mode. Because if you just let your characters and if you let your team and your teammates just attack randomly, you're going to end up with a lot of mismatches and a lot of bad situations where the wrong teams are fighting each other, and you're probably going to lose more often than win. And that's not good. It's kind of like Alliance Conquest. I see Alliance Tournament as the big brother of Alliance Conquest. You don't just pick a zone and start attacking randomly and wildly in Conquest. Because if I have all of my strongest characters and you don't, but then I'm attacking the weak guy and you're stuck fighting the Jean Grey team, it's not very nice. Now, I also wanted to address a little bit the kind of statement that I made with my latest snapshot video where I claimed that Quicksilver was actually better than Jean Grey and he was at the top of the meta. And now I think a lot of the controversy surrounding that was based on the fact that you guys disagreed with me and you thought that Jean Grey is still #1 because she dominates every game mode, whereas Quicksilver doesn't dominate so unequivocally. And while I do agree with you guys on that end, I wanted to show you guys a clip so you can get a glimpse of why I think Quicksilver can be so suffocating and why he could potentially be the best character in the game. I'm going to use my Alliance member's victory here, Dice, and I gotta give it up to my man because this is one hell of a replay. And you can obviously go and check this out later in the game if you want, if you don't like the quality that I'm providing. But you've gotta see, pay attention to the Quicksilver on the left. Because that is Dice's Quicksilver there with 193,000 HP. That's all you need, folks. He's 100,000 HP below. He's got all 3 characters at max health. And this is, well, as soon as Jean Grey dies, and there we go, this is a Quicksilver solo. And yeah, he kills Jean Grey twice. He kills his clone. He kills his sister. Spoiler alert. The hot dog man is victorious. Now, There's definitely some luck involved in why he was able to win. I'm not going to claim that Quicksilver is obviously better than Jean Grey because of one Alliance Tournament win, but this is a small kind of statement or counter statement to the idea that Jean Grey is better than Quicksilver. And I know this is only one part of the game. The whole game, Marvel Future Fight, does not surround Alliance Tournament, but this is a pretty good arena for judging a character's peak value. You have characters that are at their peak performance with the best CTPs or obelisks, with maxed out ISOs, Urus, etc. And so this is kind of the pinnacle of the character's development, and then they're clashing in this automated brawl. Another clip that I wanted to show you guys is one here by my, again, Alliance member, Taba. I wanted to show you guys this one for a different reason this time around. If you want, you can see what Spider-Man 2099 is capable of doing against an enemy Quicksilver. And this situation, you'd say, well, why are you fighting a destroyer team? Well, this is where the strategy and the scouting goes into play. Instead of just wildly or randomly attacking, we intentionally paired Taba and his physical team, because you have Quicksilver and Spider-Man 2099 who deal primarily or exclusively physical damage, against this destroyer team. As you can see, destroyer is the first one to die, and so it's essentially a 2v3 situation, and it ends up working very well in our favor. Additionally, a 2v3 with 2 speed characters versus Jean Grey is beneficial to try and taking down her and how frustrating she can be. Finally, I wanted to address a little bit, before I get into my attack, I wanted to show off a little bit of the kind of frustration that you can see with Spider-Man. In this attack here, Spider-Man does his best with his webbing, and I almost want to say that Spider-Man can do it and he can be part of this meta, but it's just so difficult because of how frequent we find now top alliances that have web immunity on their obelisks, and the fact that he just doesn't prioritize those skills. Sometimes you can see he's doing his 5th skill repeatedly. He finally goes into his 4th skill, but it's kind of too late by then. Jean Grey is dead twice, so the webbing here is hitting, and Spider-Man almost lasts till the end, but he just didn't do enough in that time, and we only got Quicksilver or Scarlet Witch down. We couldn't quite get Quicksilver. I think if Quicksilver had died before Scarlet Witch, it may have been a turning point in the match, and Spider-Man may have been the catalyst for that. But I think, you know, he's just a little bit outside the meta in that sense. Now we get to the part that's the most fun. I'm going to make my attack against another Alliance member of Dream, the kind of reigning champions. I'm going with this Class 1 member. I don't know his name, but it's APOC versus APOC. And through the research that I didn't do, my Alliance member Dima did it, so shout out to him. He did a fantastic job, excuse me. This enemy Apocalypse has a CTP of energy. I think it's energy or destruction. So yeah, I'm going against basically the most jacked out, maxed out, juiced up Apocalypse. Let's see, and this is just gonna happen, I guess. Let's see what happens in this fight. I have no idea. This is my one and done move. I hope that it goes well. So he has a lot more HP than me. Jean Grey's dead. Okay, his Apoc's half health. My Apoc's doing well, but my Quicksilver's doing very poorly. Okay, his Apoc's dead. That's really nice. Quicksilver's... Okay, nice. Jean Grey's dead. If we can kill Quicksilver... Yeah, okay. So, it's very hard to see what's going on in real time. A lot of times I have to go back and rewatch, or I have to record it and then slow it down. I wish that there was a way to slow it down in the actual game. I wish Netmarble had a replay feature where I could put it at halftime. Netmarble has this in their other game, Star Wars Force Arena, so I don't think it would be that difficult to implement in this game, but maybe it's hard given the coding. But I think what happened was, it was something between Quicksilver's 5th skill, I think, and Jean Grey. When she respawned, she did her 5th skill, and then she basically just one-shot my team. But that was pretty close. And yeah. So if you guys want to check out more of these replays from my alliance, you can see me losing to Miolo and some other pretty entertaining stuff. But I hope that this breakdown and this view behind the veil, the curtain of Extreme Alliance, or not Extreme Alliance Battle, but Alliance Tournament, which is a product of Extreme Alliance Battle, and the meta and how I'm trying to organize these ideas and why certain characters get more value than others based on some of these factors. And then how you can use that in your quest for building up your native tier 2s and building up your roster for Extreme Alliance Battle and for Alliance Tournament if you find yourself in a top 20, top 30, even top 50 alliance. Because as you guys know, or maybe you don't know, once upon a time my alliance was top 200. Then we were top 100. Then we were top 50. Now we're top 5. Top 5, top 5, top 5. So hope you guys have enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned something from it and got something that you can take out of it for the future. Subscribe if you're having a good time. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.